Hey guys, in today's video I'll be showing my wilderness first aid kit, something I haven't really talked about or shown before. And before we get started, I want to say that accident prevention is key. For example, why have to deal with an eye injury when you could have just worn eye protection to begin with? I have a video called Hiking Hazards that talks about the hazards we face while out hiking and how to prevent them from happening. So if you guys don't mind checking that out, it'll save me from having to repeat a whole bunch of stuff. I also want to share a bit about my background so you kind of have an idea where I'm coming from. I've been hiking and bushcrafting since around 1991. I live in the subarctic region of Alberta. I'm a day hiker. I usually hike alone in remote locations and on rough terrain. On top of all that, I do high-risk activities. I'm mountain biking, sledding, using knives, axes, saws. I'm around fire. So there's lots of potential for injury. I take wilderness safety quite seriously, and I use a lot of caution when I'm out in the woods. I do a lot of planning for my hikes, like knowing the weather conditions so I can dress appropriately, knowing the terrain I'll be on so I have the proper footwear, having the proper gear such as a walking stick, shelter, basic survival items. And when buying a first aid kit, think about the types of injuries you might encounter. Cuts, puncture wounds, sprains, abrasions. I think the most common injuries are going to be eye injuries, hand injuries, twisted ankles. And we can't carry everything for every possible injury. And I think if you spend a lot of times in the outdoors doing hiking, hunting, quadding, you should take a first aid course. I have, through work, a basic first aid training course. After buying a first aid kit, I think it's important to open it, get familiar with it, know what it's capable of. Do you need to add anything to it? I've added quite a few items to my first aid kit. You want to keep it accessible. You don't want to bury it way at the bottom of your backpack. I think it's important to be able to access your kit with one hand. You want to waterproof it and know how to use the items in it. Here's a look at the contents of my first aid kit. I have a first aid book for reference, a mirror for eye injuries or facial injuries, a triangular bandage for an arm sling, 3 3x3 gauze pads for large wounds, and also 6 2x2 gauze pads, 2 sting relief pads. This is quick relief. It's a powder that you put on cuts and punctures to stop bleeding immediately. 2 iodine prep pads, 4 large bandages, some medication, some pain relief, nausea medication, antacid. Just a reference book that came with the kit on first aid tips. 10 regular bandages, polysporin to prevent infection, 2-inch by 5-yard gauze bandage, 2 adhesive strips for closing wounds, 18 alcohol prep pads, burn gel, 2 knuckle bandages, 4 regular band-aids with antibiotic, another compress bandage, medical gloves, medical tape, 2 tongue depressors for just a quick splint for maybe your finger, or just so you're not wandering around looking for pieces of wood, pair of scissors, crazy glue for take place of stitches for gashes and stuff like that, tweezers for splinters, maybe an eye injury,